Alex Gluz here. I'm the host of Revenue Engine Podcast, where I talk with top leaders in business, marketing, sales, tech, SaaS, and more. We have a great guest for you today. This episode is brought to you by Monroe Digital. At Monroe, we build world-class revenue engines for B2B SaaS and tech companies. We have a great guest for you today. Super excited. Hey, Matt, nice to have you here.
Alex, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Definitely. Can you tell us who you are and what you do, please?
Matt Overman. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at a company called Identity Digital. We are one of the largest wholesalers of domain names, so a large internet infrastructure company. We operate 270 top-level domains, so right of the dot, like .info, .world, .live, and then we run the back-end technology for many others as well, .ai, .org, .au. I've been in the industry for a very long time, going on 20 years, and all sorts of commercial roles, and like I said, run revenue for the organization now.
So for those of you who don't know, so Identity operates hundreds of top-level domains that almost nobody else has. What does it show you about where the internet is actually heading?
In terms of the view, it's interesting. We, as a wholesaler of domain names, it's a B2B2C model in that we sell through retail registrars. We don't sell directly to the consumer. So the wholesale business, but we have an incredible amount of data. We sell across hundreds, getting close to thousands of platforms that actually offer our domains to their consumers, to their users, builders, enterprises, SMBs. And we get a lot of data on what's trending as it's happening, sometimes on the very early stage of what's happening. And have seen trends both emerge and as they peak and decline. You know, we had a lot of popularity with sort of the Web3 and NFT craze from 2022, and saw very clearly in our data when that was some of the air was being let out of that. Year over year, month over month trends even falling off, far less metaverse NFT related registrations. So we do, between domain search and domain registrations, we sit at an interesting intersection where people are creating their identities, they're speculating on domains, they're building businesses, and see a lot of signal in what those naming conventions are.
Yeah, and I definitely can relate to that. I remember during the Bitcoin boom, and there was everything blockchain, and it was so popular. I remember even like looking at some domains and thinking, wow, this is going to be really popular. And I think I bought some, and then a few years later, I'm like, okay. That's kind of past. So, but you do operate probably the most hyped, for good reason, domain, which is AI. And for those you who don't know, it's for Anguilla. Maybe you can first tell. I mean, I think most of us know, but maybe you can just tell how it works, because it's just such an interesting story by itself, the AI domain.
Yeah, so most domains that are out there, like .com, .net, many of the ones that we run, .info, I mentioned .world, .live, most of them are generic top-level domains. But if you see a two-letter one like .ai or .co or .tv, or if you're in the UK, those are country codes. And so they're administered by the individual countries. Every country has their own country code. Canada's .ca, the US is .us. Not many people necessarily know about or gravitate towards that one, because most businesses in the US use generic domains. But in certain countries, the country code is the predominant domain name. And AI is administered by the country of Anguilla, a Caribbean island of 12,000 people. It is one of the hottest TLDs in the world. It is popular far beyond the shores of that island, as you're well aware. And it's become sort of a trust anchor or a credibility sign for AI companies. Most AI startups and many larger companies that have AI aspirations are buying and utilizing AI names to establish themselves as relevant in this emerging AI world. And so it's been incredible for this country. It is a meaningful part of their GDP. They're doing wonderful things, free healthcare for aspects of their population, building a new airport. It's been really powerful. And as you said, it's certainly one of the hottest TLDs in the world.
Yeah, they said data is the new oil, so it's kind of similar to that, and it's great that the country was able to use it for their citizens and spread the wealth. That's all.
They do not take it for granted. We've spent some time down there. We just had a summit down on the island, and they are very they are thankful every day that their country code corresponds with with artificial intelligence and the demand that it's driven and the power it's had in sort of reshaping their country. So they certainly don't take it for granted and are focused on how they can build sustainability into that demand, into that revenue stream. And that's a role that we play working with them to establish that.
That means, like, what if somebody wants to come up with the domain name, like not the domain name, but after right to the dot, right to the dot where you call so .com, as we know, it's like, how does that work, or how often the new things getting spawned, or how does it work?
Yeah, it's a great question. The last time that people were able to create new ones, when our company really came to be, the current shape of it, where we applied for most of the TLDs that we have, was in 2012. And those rounds do not open very often. Coincidentally, the latest round, the first one in 14 years, just opened last month. And so that will run through the end of the summer, where companies like ours and other new entrants have an opportunity to apply for and pursue new extensions, new top-level domains that don't exist. So it's a bit of a cumbersome process to do so. It costs money. There's about a $250,000 application fee working through our governing body called ICANN, is the organization that administers all names and numbers. And so that's who you work through to apply for it. You need a technology partner. If you don't have your own platform, a company like ours or another one, there's a whole application process. You have to basically prove that you're financially and technically capable of running a registry, because as I started, this is important internet infrastructure. You can't have businesses building on your top level domain and the registry goes down, and those businesses, those websites or identities or whatever, emails, all fail to work. So that is at a core. I'm obviously on the commercial and the revenue side, but at a core, we don't have a business if we don't have very sound 99.999% uptime, reliable technology. Our partners count on that, and ultimately the customers that buy our domains count on that.
Yeah, no, that's great to know, and it's such an interesting trend. And again, you can see that the supply and the demand side of it. So when you see the demand is rising, you can see the market is shifting. Some things obviously might be that obvious, some things maybe not that obvious, and it's not that obvious. So demand is, and obviously I think everything AI related, and everything technology related, with like agents and some new things coming up. They're going to become more popular, and it's going to evolve and continue evolving and evolving.
There are many top level domains that exist today, hundreds of them. Still terms that were not as popular, which I think is what you're getting at, back in 2012. So we expect more AI related domains to come out. There's probably going to be some crypto and some blockchain ones that were not really as much of a thing back in 2012, or we're just sort of emerging. So certainly some trends, and then there's other ones that I think were missed the first round, and it hasn't opened for 14 years. So We expect there to be demand, and that's just on the generic side. There's also brand TLDs. Many brands like .google uses .google, Amazon, and hundreds of those examples. There will be more brands that apply. And so, some of your listeners probably work for companies that are already thinking about it, applying for their brand TLD. And there's security benefits and marketing benefits and a variety of reasons why brands might want their own namespace. So
let's talk about that. I didn't even think about that. Let's talk about that. So how does that work? Like, what are the requirements for the brand to have their own? How does that work?
They need to apply for it and essentially confirm that they have the sole rights to it. I mean, I guess there's some brand TLDs where there's multiple brands that use the name that can be contested. Like a term like United, where there's United Airlines, United Healthcare, there's different ones. But if it's their trademark and they can prove that they have the rights to it, like a .google was not as controversial. And so you prove that it's your trademark, that you have the rights to it. You don't have to fight for it with anyone else. You can apply for it and show that you have the money and the technology, and then you get it typically in it's what's called a closed TLD. It's not operated. They don't sell it commercially. You and I can't go to GoDaddy or Squarespace or Namecheap or anywhere and buy a .google name. Google operates it just for their own purposes, their own internal systems. And so that's one of the reasons that I think many, the first round, and some are considering doing it this round, is you do have the ability to have that trusted namespace. That's one thing, just in general, where domain names really play a role in this increasingly agentic and sort of crowded digital landscape, being able to have those domains as trust anchors, and a fully trusted namespace where it's your brand and only you are using it for your own internal systems or email. But just domains in general as a trust anchor is certainly a theme and a way that our industry has emerged. There's so much content. There's so many people online now. There's going to be, as we understand, billions of agents. And how do you identify and verify who are those people, those humans, those agents? Domains play a unique role in actually helping to establish identity and ultimately trust.
Yeah, and we talked in our interview, so that's one of the topics you really focus on, because you fully believe that this is part of the identity now. It's not something which is temporarily in cases, right, for some people, because back in the day, right, like people used to, I'm gonna create my website and maybe put a blog or a small game or something like that, and then a few years later, like, I moved on and on better things, and now people can have their own sovereign identity, you call it. And but where do you see the shift happening?
Yeah, I think I do think just overall in our industry, the shift at a high level is from the notion that you need you're a business or an entrepreneur, and you need one domain for your website and your email, and that's how you use it. And a shift to more, whether it's businesses or individuals, owning a domain where it is your actual place, whether if it's your personal name, your brand, it's your place on the internet, and you can use it, yes, for an email, yes, for a website, but in a number of other ways too. Domains truly as identity. We've seen that emerge as social handles. There's decentralized social networks, similar to X. There's Blue Sky and Mastodon, where actually people have, and their handles, and in some cases based on a unique server, are a domain name. It's not a third party or a third level, myx.com / whatever. My actual handle on Blue Sky, I think mine is mattoverman.fyi. I think I have Matt Overman and moveoverman.fyi, but you have a domain name that is your handle. So identity there, where we think it's actually, and I started to talk about this a little bit earlier, but where we think it's going to be most evident in the future, as is leveraging the DNS, the domain name system, and domain names as the identity source for agents. The domain name system is global. It has scale to every country. It has acceptance through this governing body and the relationships with all of the individual governments. That domain name system, or the DNS, is one of the unique things that we have in the internet that is accepted worldwide. And so we have an emerging problem, I would say, of there will be billions of agents, hundreds of millions, billions, right, however many agents, and how do you ultimately verify so that you as a human or your agents are interacting with the agents that they think they are and have the permissions to do what they say they do, if you're exchanging payment, for example. And we're not trying to solve all of that. There's many companies, including all the big hyperscalers. How do you verify? But in the interoperable sort of sense, these agents are not going to stay just at, within Claude and within the Anthropic ecosystem or within Salesforce. They're going to interact across these platforms. And so you need an identity layer for that. How do you first, before you can verify and gate permissions, how do you first figure out what the identity of that individual agent is? Is it who it says it is? And so we're doing some work in that to and others in our industry are as well, to really build and ensure that the DNS plays a role, the domain name system plays a role in agentic identity in the future. And so we have a labs group that's working on sort of a agent birth certificate, if you will, product.
Agent birth certificate. So that's another name.
Well, it's early days in this.
Very interesting. Yeah. No, but you're right. So I mean, the identity. So if we live in the United States, and I mean, we all, not all, but our identities are social security, right? That's our identity. That's everything. Here's Matt. Here's his social. This is all the information under him. This is Alex. This is information. In the digital world, it's the emails, right? It's essentially the emails, because a lot of data is associated with the email. They're like CRM, so they're all based on the email data, things like that. But now you're saying, because there is no way to control it, that the layer of the main layer would be something identifiable. So this is a kind of new development, and I'm just curious to see how this is all gonna develop. But you're right about the agents, and we're already getting email from the agents. We don't even know, like it's already coming through more than I think. It's always been a lot of bots, but now it's bots been kind of stupid. I mean, like, go to the website and click everything. Now it's agents are much smarter, and they can be programmed for many different things. So it's very interesting that you also oversee this.
And I think they'll get smarter and smarter and be more widely used through some of the platforms I spoke about in the coming years. I think we're still really early days on that, but it's not going to be uncommon that individuals are using multiple agents for many of the more tedious things, managing your inbox. I've heard there's agents that exist today in terms of going out and evaluating all of your travel options and even booking travel. And I think it's less common that you enable payment capabilities, but that's, I think, the future of it, where you're turning over some of your, everyone's going to have essentially their own assistants doing a lot of this work. Yes. How can yours be trusted by others, and how can your agent trust the ones that they're interacting with? There's big problems and opportunities to solve around that.
So let's change gears a little bit. Let's talk about our favorite topic, revenue generation. Yep. So your model is different. You so to say, you're wholesaler. You have wholesale affiliate partners in a way too. So you sell through Vercel, Replit, Lovable, and Bolt, among many others. Yeah. So what does a partnership with a vibe coding platform look like that a traditionally registered partnership does not?
Yeah, I think our historical model, as you just alluded to, is through a traditional registrar. So GoDaddy being the most commonly known. and we sell domain names. We are they have a domain first experience where the customers that show up there historically have been looking for a domain name, and then a variety of other services can be upsold, including email, including website and hosting. But it is the customers that go there are looking for name suggestions or have a particular name in mind. What's happening, and the channel, we think of this as our distribution channel. Our channel is evolving. That still is the case, and the industry as a whole is growing a lot. It's a really exciting time to be in domain names. There's a lot of AI momentum and AI tailwinds that are driving a lot of demand for domain names. And so we're actually, as an industry, have the highest growth, year-over-year growth, just in total domain names, almost 400 million domains in existence, the highest growth in about 12 years as an industry. So a lot of momentum there, and a lot of what is actually driving that growth is demand for AI names, not just .ai, but AI-related keywords, and demand through AI native platforms like the ones that you just spoke about in the question, Vercel, Replit, Lovable. And they are different from a distribution standpoint. And then those customers are not showing up there because they want a domain name. They are building. It's never been easier to build. You don't need coding experience. You can launch. I've always been on the commercial side. I am not technical. I can launch an app. I can launch a business essentially in a day, in hours in some case, by vibe coding it through some of these platforms. And they're vibe coding and cloud hosting, but like it's not hard to leverage these for the average person now, the non-technical founder, if you will, to launch these businesses. And so people are building and they're deploying at a more rapid rate than they ever have. And as it's easier to build and launch something, there's been sort of an organic demand within these platforms to, hey, I want to publish this. I don't want to publish it on your, lovable.dev, whatever subdomain. I want to connect a domain to it. And so the consumers, the builders that are building, again, more rapidly than they ever have before, are the ones that raised their hand and said, I want to easily be able to connect a domain. And so we're empowering, we're basically partnered with registrars, our own name.com, but also others, to ensure that all of these platforms can get set up as resellers. And so we're selling domains there. It's a really high quality use case. They want to remove friction. They want people to build and to launch their sites. And by publishing on a domain name, it makes it real. It makes it stickier. From the platform standpoint, that activates it. It's another touch point. It's another thing that they're paying for. And so it gives the consumers ultimately what they want, but the platforms, it's another monetization and retention tool. And we love this because these customers are inherently a little bit higher quality. They're all there first and foremost to build something, not just to register a domain. In the broader domain ecosystem, a lot of people buy domains for various reasons and they launch businesses, but sometimes they just have an idea, and those ideas, without the right tools, never come to fruition. And so in these native AI building environments where the ideas are coming to fruition first and then the name is coming along, that's a great use case for us. And it's really driving some of the demand that we see right now.
Yeah, and then I also think about it, the model shapes who you can consider and partner with. If the payment only happens when the end buyer acts, you start being able to choose partners on potential. You have to choose on workflow fit. Where's the actually naturally going to happen? Where's the buyer already moving? Where does your product have to be at the least to get used? So that definitely explain why vibe coding platforms makes such a sense, and you explained it so eloquently. The action is built into workflow. You're not asking the partners to set the product is the part of the build. So it's a lot of picking up the right partners with fits into the system, and also the economics, of course, of work together. So that's great to see. And we love it as users, right? Like it's much easier That's one thing about technology. If you start, anybody who works with technology, that you build it or use it, if you start writing your stack, you're like, oh my goodness, there's hundreds of different website apps I'm using, and that's why I guess the Claude and everything, like that's making it easier. You want to integrate and everything in the workflow. So it's finding the right partnership where you reduce the friction and you add value along the way. And you said also working together kind of to expand on this. So it's great to hear.
Yep. They are, they're helping sort of up level the industry, I would say, in terms of what domain search looks like and discoverability and merchandising. And so I think a lot of the traditional registrars are seeing opportunities to embrace and build in more AI development tools to make their offering more well-rounded. So in general, it's just been it's been a really nice tailwind for the industry.
Yeah. So another thing you mentioned, Matt, when we chatted, you mentioned legacy domain brand equity gravity is diminishing every year. Where's that breaking down fastest right now?
Well, I think sort of what we were just talking about is a big reason why we're seeing a little bit of a shift in terms of demand for types of domains. Legacy domains have been around a lot longer, but a lot of these new platforms and the users that gravitate to those platforms are not as biased necessarily to a particular extension. They want something that resonates with them. And if they're launching a business or they're launching a prototype or you're buying a domain for your identity, personality, the actual meaning in the domain resonates a little bit more. And in a world where you're not just optimizing to be discovered in an old traditional kind of Google SEO search, having a top level domain that's 40 years old versus a newer one doesn't matter as much. And I think to some degree, there's this younger, more tech-centric audience that just doesn't have that inherent bias, and they're gravitating towards top-level domains that speak to them when they show up. And certainly AI is one of them. I mean, everyone, that's kind of across the board. But top-level domains within our portfolio, .software and .network was a huge one with some of the blockchain buyers, and a lot of people are building this like sort of network layer, building on network. Live for live streaming, a lot of people, we see a lot of demand for that. Google actually has a couple of their own that they operate as a registry. .app and .dev resonate tremendously with the developer and technical audiences. So there's a lot of these that have some meaning that whereas some of the legacy ones are a little bit more generic and people don't associate them with anything other than they're just a domain name. Well, not everyone wants just a generic domain name now. They want something that has personality, whether it's for their business or if I'm building something that is going to be my identity. Yes, my one-page website, but also something I might use as a social handle or for my sign-on or share it, rebrand my LinkedIn page or anything that I associate just my personal brand. I don't have, I want something that actually represents who I am or something that's a little bit more creative. And so I think we've seen that. I think the cost and availability, availability and cost side to it too.
Yes.
Some of the oldest and largest legacy TLDs, you have a lot of names that aren't available. And yes, you can go buy them, but if you're buying them in the aftermarket, like it's not uncommon for there to be, oneword.com names that sell for over $1 million. And that's not for everyone.
But you still see this trends. I mean, it's still popular to look for this oneword.com.
I think some people, yeah. I mean, I think there's still demand for legacy domains, and clearly some of them, .com, that's the largest TLD. But what we've seen is a shift in demand towards more AI leading the way, but more meaningful TLDs, if you will.
Yeah, but you could say it's like a clash of a generation. A new generation is starting to win, and they have other priorities, and their audience too is much more tech savvy. So right, so if it's not a back in the day, right? Like obviously, was hey, you don't have a .com domain. Oh, you might be bogus, Like people, and it was like that. But now, like you said, it's much, but it's much bigger meaning to that you can give, and it's great how you guys really embrace it and also educate. You're doing quite a bit of education, so I think that's super important.
Yep, I think we're past the time where only one extension signifies trustworthiness. There's a lot of different use cases. There's whether it's CC-TLDs, the country code TLDs or generic TLDs or the brand TLDs. There's a lot of different approaches, and it's not a one size fits all. But we certainly see, the more tech centric and the areas that we're seeing our industry is growing a lot. That's kind of the less biased or more open to all sorts of different personalized options. That's where we see it a lot.
Yeah, so anything outside of AI is like kind of taken off. App, tech, like I can see app, and of course that's just no brainer. Dev app, that's no brainers. AI, that's a no brainer. Anything like which is like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, some others like adjacent to AI. We've seen a lot of demand for .chat, which is in that same vein. There's another one that's not ours that Amazon runs, .bot. So there's AI related ones
around it.
.tech. There's kind of tech and AI adjacent TLDs have been really popular. We've seen a lot in the sort of the personal brand. I was speaking about like a domain as an identity just for you. You might not have a business, I might not, but rebranding my LinkedIn or my social handle. We have .bio is one that there's a lot of demand. Link in bio was not a thing.
Okay.
That interestingly, that TLD, it was one we acquired a while ago, but it was initially applied for many years ago as purely sort of for a bio organic biotech, more of a. It was not for the personal bio or the link in bio use case, and that's one that the signal that we saw in the market, the types of registrations, the people that were just registering their name and redirecting it to a LinkedIn page or integrating it in, forwarding it to their link tree, link in bio page. That's one where just the signal sort of guided us towards a rebrand for it, which was pretty interesting. So there's a bunch in that social that are more about that personal domain use case. So we've seen a lot of demand there as well.
Okay. Yeah, and that's definitely interesting, the trends, and also we're still a bit concerned about third-party data and basically, the social network basically controlling everything, and you do want to have that's a great idea. So anybody listening, check it out. I think it's a great idea, and nowadays, like you said, like today you can create one in a few hours and it looks nice and it's always there, and probably it's not going to be costly, and there's many good things you can do with that. So that's really cool.
That drove a lot of the interest, I think, in link in bio sites. It's essentially just a one-page website that emerged based on the Instagram single link that you could have in the profile, but also I think because a little bit of a distrust in platforms, like an acceptance or an understanding that you need to be on these social platforms to acquire customers and to generate awareness. But ultimately, if you can own your funnel and own the attribution at the end of the day and drive people over to a site where you fully control it, you can't lose it. You can't have the platform take your handle away. It is your sovereign space online. As long as you pay your renewal, it's yours forever. And you control the content there. You control the customers. If they sign up, if they buy anything, you own 100% of the revenue. And so that movement is what drove the link in bio platform. And anyone that was, I think, more serious and trying to run their brand as build it as a business or build real brand equity, wanted to tie a custom domain to it. And so that's a movement, that's benefited .bio, it's benefited TLDs like .link, anything that you can represents like, this is my space, my personal space, my identity off the social networks. Come meet me here, but follow me over to to my own, the place, my space on the web that I control.
So, where do you see this the domain space in, like, let's say 10 years, even if you can think that far? Like, what do you think is?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think a lot of what's happening right now will continue to happen in terms of how we think about distribution and where you buy domains is evolving and will continue to evolve. Yeah, I think there's opportunities for all of the core registrars to continue to evolve their products and to evolve their partnerships, and I don't think any of them are going away. But if I think of what distribution looks like, it's going to continue to get more fragmented. There's new platforms that are popping up weekly that have meaningful users, and so we're seeing more and more opportunities to sell domains in these smaller and growing resellers. We talked about some of the vibe coding platforms. There's other examples. Base 44 was one that was founded, and within a year, I don't even think it was a year old, it was bought for almost $100 million by Wix. And so that's their vibe coding. That's a traditional website builder that bought a vibe coding, an AI web builder. There's going to be more and more places that we can sell domains. And I've spent most of my time talking about either the sort of social side of it or the AI platforms, but there's a lot of other ones. Like, people incorporate businesses, millions of new businesses every year in the US alone.
Right.
We see LegalZoom and Zen Business and Taylor Brands, and all these incorporation companies are increasingly places where people are going to go, and you set up and you register your LLC, but then you can also buy a domain name. I guess I should have hit on that. We run .llc, and we've seen increased demand for that. TLDs like LLC and those corporate identifiers, ventures, holdings, .inc. More people that want to kind of establish that this is my business. I might run a painting company or a plumbing company, but I'm a legit business. Let me put that stamp of sort of authentic, of authority in the form of, I have an LLC and here's my .llc to go with it. So I think it's really about distribution. And then we touched on it earlier, but the agentic web we're not going to recognize how people interact online. I think 10 years from now, it's going to be very different. It's going to be a lot less of you and I going and navigating to search or navigating to an individual website, and agents going. And so what is the future of the agentic web? And we're doing whatever we can to ensure that domain names play a role in that, but they might not look the same. It might be, they're personal. Like, the human ones are very readable, and there's a premium on a nice, easy to remember, easy to read, human readable domain for that use case. And then there's machine readable domains, and agents interact and they have a way of identifying who they are, but the domain name might not need to be read the same way in a semantically relevant. So we're building for a future where both are true. And that's, if I fast forward to 10 years, I think there will be a huge amount of online activity and commerce that's agentic, that you and I aren't doing ourselves. Our agents are doing it.
Yeah, it's moving very fast, and you're right. But it's great to be able to see the both sides and be open-minded and see how we can play a part in this and how we can make things better for everybody. And that's the bigger goal here. Great speaking with you, Matt. I have one last question for you. Who were your mentors and the best advice they gave you?
I've had a few mentors. Probably the one that I consider sort of my first mentor, who got me into the domain business, actually, a man named Michael Blend, has founded a bunch of companies, and continues to be someone that I talk to. I actually just randomly spoke with him yesterday. I hadn't talked to him in a little while. But as someone that got me into the industry, taught me a lot. And I think a few things that I learned from him that are true to this day, the value of relationships, the value of kind of sticking to your values. He had some friends in the industry back then, and it was, we had a lot of sort of friendly partners, but there was an importance. He placed a premium on, we're still human at the end of the day. We're not taking shortcuts. Relationships matter. And I think of that translates really in terms of how I think of partnerships, and like the win-win. You have to do win-win deals, a mutual value exchange. I know a lot of people, I've encountered many over the years, that you're in a true like strategic partnership setting where they're trying to win the deal. And I think that's short-sighted. To have a long-term partnership, you have to have virtually, maybe it's not always going to be exactly equal, but like a pretty even value exchange in terms of what both companies are getting out of that. And if you're winning the deal where you're getting the upper hand, and you clearly have the upper hand, that's not going to be sustainable. It's got to be valuable for both companies. And he taught me that really early on. And that's more or less how I've operated to this day. And we have a lot of long time, our whole business is built on partnerships. We're a B2B2C model. We don't sell domains unless our partners sell them on our behalf. So there needs to be that value exchange where everyone is getting something from the relationship, or it's not going to last.
Yeah, totally agree with you. We've been talking to Matt Overman, Chief Revenue Officer at Identity Digital.